Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Illustration Department podcast. My name is Giuseppe Castellano. In this podcast, I talk to folks in illustration, graphic design, publishing, animation, and other creative fields about their work, the lessons they've learned, and the bumps and bruises they've experienced along the way. In this episode, my guest is Kathleen Merz, Editorial Director at Eerdmans Books for young readers. If you're trying to get published, it might sound like a good idea to chase after the market, but as Kathleen and I discuss, it's not. Among the topics, Kathleen explains why what she looks for in children's book text and art is ineffable. We count the top 5 things creators need to know before they submit their children's book to a publisher. And Kathleen tells creatives what they should be chasing instead of the market. I hope you enjoy our conversation. I was recently replacing a toilet and it wasn't working for some reason. And couldn't figure out why it wouldn't sit flush on the floor. It took me half an hour until I realized that I had neglected to remove the old wax ring. Oh. So I basically put 2 wax rings on top of each other, which is why and I just, the entire time, I'm like, what am I doing? What is this? Is this really it?
This is life. This is existing as a human in 2026.
Existing as a human. We're going to talk about existing as writers, existing as children's book professionals, and all that good stuff. I have questions, of course, but I see this really more as a conversation than kind of a, tell me, Kathleen, where did you go to school? You studied linguistics. What was that about? I edit a decent amount.
I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah. Lots of ums, coughs, sneezes, sniffles, any and every sound that you make that you're like, oh shit, that's in the recording. No, it won't be.
Excellent. I feel like a good 72% less anxious now.
All right. I like 72% less anxious. I saw someone post recently, it's called a nervous system, not a relaxed system. Which I really like.
Yep. Yeah.
And makes a lot of sense. For me, anyway.
Oh, yeah. No, that definitely resonates.
Especially when you work in publishing. I feel like there's a lot of attacks on the nervous system.
Yeah. Which is wild. I mean, like, what we're doing is not, like, I have to remind myself all the time, like, it's not life and death.
Right.
And yet, it always feels like the stakes are so high.
You're right. I mean, I remember when I worked at Penguin and Simon & Schuster before that, the editors would be the ones pitching the next list of books, the next season to the other groups, sales, marketing, executive teams. We would prep, the design team would help prep. We would put together the deck and they were nervous as hell. They were rehearsing what they were going to say for each book, worried that the other groups wouldn't be as into the book as they are. And yeah, it was like not life or death, but like, oh, if this book doesn't sell, I'm in trouble or we're in trouble, which wasn't really the case, but it felt like it.
Yeah. I mean, it's somewhere in the middle, right? Like, because like there are stakes and you do have to make sure that everything is succeeding and the team is on board and all of those meetings are important and, getting the book out there successfully, it is all critical to the work that we do.
Yeah.
But it is important to remember, like, okay, I can take a breath there.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't novel or, inventive even, but the common refrain with us at Penguin was, this isn't brain surgery. This is books. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we all treated it like brain surgery. Like, be careful with that typeface choice or it'll sink the book. That kind of thing. And you think I'm joking. I'm kind of not.
No. And sometimes it's like, on the editorial side, it's, like tiny edits, like the amount of time that I've spent thinking about like one word on a page, and just like trying out different options. And then, like I'll like go to bed at night thinking about, like one specific word. It's like keeping me up at night.
Speaking of words, what's your take on, how do I describe these? There is a little bit of a debate or a discussion or differing opinions out in the world about whether or not quote unquote big words belong in children's books.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You've had lots of conversations about like making things kid friendly, right?
Right.
And I am definitely in the camp of, I think it's important to give kids books that expand their knowledge of the world. I love a good big word that introduces them to something that, they like. I loved that as a kid, right? When I was reading books, like learning new words, and and there were plenty of words that like I had only read, and then I, tried my hand at saying them out in the real world and totally botched the pronunciation and, got teased. But I just loved learning new words. And I think that's like they're new to the world. They're discovering the world. And I think that we don't always give them enough credit for how smart they actually are and how willing to jump in and learn new things and how eager they are for that. That being said, I also think it's really important to make sure that that's balanced, because there can be a tendency to want to throw in all of the exciting, fun, long, tricky words. And that can get really daunting, I think, for readers. And even, for a parent who's reading it aloud, it can pull them out of the experience. It can feel like too much. We also want to encourage kids to be eager readers, to want to keep doing it. And if they're constantly feeling like it's too much, like it's above the level that they're ready for, then they're not going to want to keep reading. Right. I think it's important to make sure that the trickier words that you're using, the longer, more difficult words, serve a purpose within the story, to make sure that, you have a good reason, right? Like that it fits the poetry, the rhythm, the story. There's a reason for using a more difficult elevated word rather than something simpler. And I think you want to balance it by not giving them too much.
Exactly. Yeah. You want it to show up on the right beat.
Yeah.
Of the story.
And you can do a lot too, with context in the text to help kids, have sort of hooks to figure out the meaning with, sorry, I didn't say that well, but giving them context to help figure out a tricky word.
Yeah, that just goes in against you. You have two demerits as an editor for not speaking that sentence more eloquently. I guess you edit words, not on paper, but not orally.
No. And this is why, I'm very happy to be working quietly in my office and not, not out in the world talking to people, where I can, I can't just easily edit everything I say.
Kathleen, I stammer all the time. We have new neighbors just moved in next door. They're great, and we were breathing a sigh of relief. We didn't want them to be jerks or anything. My wife, Sarah, made a zucchini bread and wanted to just, welcome them to the neighborhood and all that stuff. And we were over there, and I was stammering like an idiot. They were like, "Oh, so what do you do? What do you guys? How long have you been here?" I just could not speak fluidly at all. I don't know if it was nervousness. I don't know if I was trying to impress them. I don't know if I felt like intimidated by them because they're young and I'm not. I don't know what it was.
I mean, they're your neighbors now, so the stakes are really high. You can't mess that relationship up.
Yeah, I botched it already. It's done. I'll bribe them with homemade wine later. That's a real thing. I'm actually going to do that.
I feel like the zucchini bread is a really good bribe. That's a solid option. Mm-hmm.
If Sarah, I told my wife yesterday, I'm like, if you said to me that this was banana bread, I would have believed you. Anyway, should we go back to books?
Probably should.
Yeah, let's do that.
The entire podcast episode is just us talking about zucchini bread.
I mean, it can be. It's my podcast. We can talk about whatever you want. What's your take on books that expand the sort of emotional range of a reader? In other words, like it's not a book that's just happy, sad, angry, or scared character, but there's more complex or more diverse feelings or experiences that the kid has. I mean, where do you stand there? Is that something that you're actively looking for?
Absolutely. I mean, kids live in the same world that the rest of us live in, which is to say...
That's what I've heard. Yeah, that's what I've heard.
It's a complex, difficult world. And much as we as adults might want to shield kids from that and make sure they don't have to experience it, they do. And I don't think we do them any service by trying to pretend in the world of picture books, in the world of books, that that's not the case. I think that we should give them all the tools that we possibly can to help navigate the complexities of life. And, you know, you have to do it in a way that is accessible and makes sense to kids. But again, I think we don't always give kids enough credit for their ability to navigate all those difficult things and to parse the fact that, you know, life is complex and sometimes there aren't perfect, easy answers. And it's actually a lot better. It feels a lot better if you just acknowledge that rather than trying to pretend that everything is black and white.
Right. So zooming out just a little bit on the kinds of books that you do, you've been at Eerdmans now for 17 years. Is that right?
That is right. And wild.
Is this your first and only?
Yes. Yeah. I started at Eerdmans pretty much right after college.
Thinking that you'd work in publishing forever, or is this, or as a, I guess I'll do this and see where it goes?
I did want to work in publishing and I loved it. So I've definitely had kind of points along the way where I thought, should I be doing something else with my life? But I love what I do. And so I keep doing it.
What is it that you do? How many books do you acquire, or how many books are on your front list a year?
We publish about 16 books a year. So that's 8 books a season, spring and fall seasons.
Spring and fall. Fall is probably like when fall books come out, that's more like June or July, I guess.
Yeah, like July, August, September.
July, August.
Into October a little bit.
Because by the time October comes around, it's winter.
Right.
As far as publishing seasons go.
Right.
And spring is January, February?
Into March, yeah.
Into March.
Kind of February, March.
16 books a year.
Yep.
For folks listening, that sounds like harder odds than getting into Harvard.
I mean, that's publishing for you, right? It's small odds all across the board, I think, no matter who you're trying to get published by. But
right.
Yeah, it's it always feels like there are a billion books coming out. But then on the other side, it always feels like there are so many more books and authors and illustrators wanting to be published than there's room to publish.
Yeah. What kinds of books are you looking for? And I know that's a really wide-ranging question, and that people ask me that all the time when I was an art director, and I was always like, I'm just looking for good art. I'll know it when I see it. Looking for quality in as far as consistency and artistry. I mean, there were like these larger answers to that. But as far as like from an editorial director's standpoint, what kinds of books are you hoping to slot into future seasons? Yeah.
Are you asking sort of like what categories, like fiction, nonfiction, whatever, or are you thinking about more the quality, like what I look for in a project that makes me say yes to it?
First of all, you're not allowed to ask me any questions. So that's strike 2. Third, no, I'm kidding. Dang it. That's a good question. The more zoomed out option. Well, what do you look for in a book that makes you go, I might want to acquire this, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, or whatever?
I mean, there's a list of things, right? So it's the general quality of the writing. It's the, can I see this as a book? Like, do I think it's got illustration potential? Does it have the sort of the pacing, the variety that's going to lend itself toward being a really good picture book? Is it a fit for our list, for the kind of books that we're looking to publish? But I would say the thing overall that really makes me say yes is it's something that draws me in emotionally, that I connect with, that I fall in love with. And that's sort of a kind of ineffable quality in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I'll look up what ineffable means later. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. Well, I mean, on that note, you hear a lot of editors say essentially the same thing. I have to love it. I have to be in love with it. On the other side of that, through working with illustrators, through my mentoring illustrators, we'll talk about what they're hearing from editors and agents too, but specifically with editors who either they've submitted their work directly to editors or their agent has. And the editor comes back with comments. And one of the most common comments from an editor is, I really like this. I may even love it, but I can't see how I can sell it.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can't envision this in the market. Some configuration of that, some version of that. Obviously, that's got to be part of your decision-making process. Like, I am in love with this. And then when you turn to the sort of consumerist commercial element, what scares you there or what excites you there? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
as a question?
Absolutely. And I should have included that in my list earlier also, because that is clearly an important part, right?
Like that's always books.
It is always that balance of art and commerce, and you have to sell enough books to keep the lights on. And I wish that we could always just only have to publish the books that we love, and that was the only criteria. But yeah. And it also, it comes from wanting to be sure that a book is going to meet a felt need in the market. I want to make sure that books are going to find readers. Right. If we publish a book, we invest all of that time and effort and money into it. I want to make sure that more than 3 people are going to also fall in love with it.
Yeah, because you can't pitch it to your colleagues and say, but you guys, I really love it. Like, that's not a pitch.
Right. I wish it could be, but no, it needs to be more than that. And there's so much competition, and you have to sell a book at every stage. It's editors selling it to the rest of their team and marketing and sales, and then marketing and sales going out and trying to sell it to booksellers trying to sell it to readers. And so you have to have that sustained, enthusiasm for it at all different stages.
You said felt need in the market. I really like the way you said that. You feel like it's a need in the market. You're not entirely sure.
Well, and it's also a question of what book buyers feel like they need.
Sometimes those needs are hunches more than concrete data proving that quote unquote, the market is in need of something.
Yeah,
I feel like a lot of the time it's hunch, isn't it?
I wish that we could publish everything based on like concrete, perfect data. And we try and get as much data as we can to inform our decisions. But especially when you're making creative products, at least some of it is always going to have to come down to a bit of intuition.
Sure. How do I ask this question? Does what's happening in the world in any given year or decade, does that influence the decisions that you and your team make as far as books that you acquire?
It has to, right? Because we are publishing into that world. That being said, I think that trying to chase trends too hard is a good way toward madness and failure, because given the length of time it takes to get a picture book out, and given how fast trends can change, it feels like folly to try and chase trends too much. But again, kind of getting back to that idea of felt need, you want to give readers the books that will speak to them. And will kind of fit the emotional needs that they have. And, I know for myself, like in the last, half dozen years or so, as the world has felt in many different ways as a scary place, I find myself just craving a little bit of escapism sometimes.
Yeah.
That's a real human impulse. And so I think we're all kind of feeling that in a way. And so it makes sense. And it's not surprising that, you want books that remind you that there is hope and there is joy, because we all need to hold on to that as hard as possible. We might not have the capacity to grapple with hard things in the same way because we're grappling with hard things on 50 other fronts. Right. That being said, like I said before, I think there's still a place and a need for books that help readers navigate those realities. It's not like, oh, the world is hard, so we can only have
happy
happy, joyful fluff. You need
fart jokes.
You need a balance. But I do find that, at least for myself, and I think it's very true for other readers, that in hard times, I think we definitely need books that remind us we can get through.
This podcast is produced by the Illustration Department, a global leader in online education for illustrators. Visit illustrationdept.com for offerings like mentorships and portfolio reviews, testimonials, our alumni showcase, our best-selling Substack, and more. That's illustrationdept.com. And now, back to our conversation. Do you accept unsolicited submissions, or do all the queries go through, not queries, all of the manuscript submissions come from agents, or a mix of both?
We do a mix of both. We are one of the publishers that we do accept unsolicited submissions. All of our submission guidelines are on the website.
Nice.
We, have a specific dedicated email that they all go to, and we try and look through them as regularly as we can. Unfortunately, we don't have the capacity to reply to all the unsolicited submissions. But then we get a lot through agents as well.
Yep. From a listener standpoint who doesn't have an agent, and they're listening to this and they like what you have to say about stuff, and they're thinking, I'm going to send my dummy to Kathleen. Let's play a little game called 5 Things You Need to Know to Send Your Dummy to Kathleen. I'm a listener, I'm an illustrator and a writer. I put together a dummy. It's fully drawn, and there's 3 pieces of final art in it, and the text is laid in, and I'm going to submit this to you. 5 things I need to know was number 1.
Assuming, like you've said, it's laid out, the illustrator has done kind of the mix of like sketched out the full book, put the text in layout, got a couple of final pieces of art, right? Like those are all sort of the key pieces that will help us evaluate, the project as a whole.
Right. It helps you see it better.
Yeah.
Literally.
I'm torn between wanting to say, focus on the craft, focus on, making it the best it can be. And then I think the other really key piece is having a sense of who we are as a publisher and what we do. That's so important when illustrators, writers are submitting to a publisher, because you want to find the right home for your project, and you don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste our time. And you want the project to land in the best place for it. So, getting a sense of who we are as a publisher, the kind of books that we do, and whether or not we would be a fit is key.
Okay. That's a good number 1. Know your audience. Know who you're sending your work to.
Yeah.
Number 2, would it be sure to say what you need to say in the query letter?
I mean, yeah, that's important. And query letters should be pretty brief.
Agreed.
But giving a sense for what the project is, why you think it would be a fit for us, what you see kind of the being the reader for the project, why you think it should exist, why you wrote it. And then, like any helpful pieces about your background as a creator, projects that you've done before.
Okay.
So yeah, I think, sticking to those elements, but keeping it as brief as possible.
Yep. So I'm going to pretend I'm a listener. I have not done anything before. I don't have a client list, but I'm a pretty decent writer and a pretty decent illustrator. I have a good dummy. definitely publishable, professionally put together and all that. I'm going to say to you, hey, Kathleen, my name is Giuseppe. I'm from such and such, Pennsylvania. I'm an illustrator. I'm a writer. When I'm not doing any of those things, I'm usually ferrying my kids around town and chasing deer away from my hydrangeas. Done. Second paragraph. Here is my book called book title. It's a 32-page, 450-word picture book about X and X. What it's really about is, like, the universally relatable underpinning of it is about embracing loneliness. I see this book sitting on the same shelf as this one comp book comparison title about similar themes and this other comparison title about similar themes.
Mm-hmm.
To see the rest of my portfolio, please visit gcastellano.com. Third paragraph. The reason I'm sending this to you, Kathleen, is because after doing research on you and listening to your episode on the Illustration Department podcast and I feel that Eerdmans would be a good fit for this book. Is that enough of a reason? I don't know if that is.
A reason for?
Why am I sending this to you? The reason I'm asking is because I help illustrators put together query letters all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's essentially the format, what I just did there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
More or less. And the why is the toughest paragraph. Like, why am I sending this to you? I don't know, because I want it to be published. I mean, what the fuck you want?
Well,
but, okay, I'll do my research. Like, Eerdmans is a good home. But what else do you need me to say?
That's enough in a way. And at some point, you just trust that the project is going to also speak for itself too.
Yeah.
I mean, I say that, and of course, the whole point of a cover letter is to speak for the project, but you get what I mean. But yeah, I think what that kind of needs to do, what that section of the cover letter needs to do, is to tell me that the kind of things that we publish, and you understand that well enough to know that your project could fit in with that.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've got to make the ultimate decision there. But it's a way of saying, I see some of the books that you do. I know that you don't do this, that, or the other thing, and my thing is not this, that, or the other thing.
Right.
I don't think you have to make some airtight, ironclad argument for it. It's not going to be the cover letter ultimately that convinces me to publish the book. It's going to be the project itself.
Right.
But what I need to know at the cover letter stage is just that you understand what we do well enough that your project is a potentially good fit.
What if I say, imagine my surprise when I learned that you went to Calvin University, or my mom lives in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I mean, does that at all move the needle?
Not really. I mean, it's kind of an interesting bit of trivia, and but again, ultimately, I think it's it's the project.
Yeah, totally.
It's it's maybe an interesting point of human connection, but it's going to come down to whether or not the book is the right fit for us.
Absolutely. So that's what, 2 query letter?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I would say, I'm asking you, why am I answering my own questions? Shut
up.
No,
I love this. I love this. What would the third thing that you would think be? This is great. See, I love editing so much more than, writing it myself. So you write the list, and I will just do my little edits here.
All right. I see how you're playing this, Kathleen. I'll run with that. No problem. I would say number 3. Okay. So number 1 is know who you're sending it to. Number 2 is write a decent query letter. Number 3 is with the book itself, make sure that it's, read it, edit it yourself. Speaking of editing, make sure you didn't spell the wrong on page 7. Make it as tight as you possibly can. You don't have to win any awards with book design or with the illustration or any of that stuff. Just make sure it's put together well. So it would be, let's say 3 is the polish of the dummy. Would it be that?
I mean, honestly, I think you could call that number one, because that's all work that you should be doing before you even get to the submission stage.
All right. I like that.
You want to make sure that your project is ready to go out into the world. And that means you should be working on it, and then, whatever your process looks like, shove it in a drawer, revisit it a month later with fresh eyes, go over it again, share it with smart, thoughtful other readers who can give you feedback, and work on it, and be honest
I wouldn't
about
sound smart or thoughtful, but I do know how to read. So I could be an option.
There you go.
There's my gross pitch. I think I'm going to leave that in there. Anyways, sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no, all good. But yeah, making sure that you've done the craft work of making your project as strong as it can be. That should happen before you really do any part of the work of sending it out for submission.
Okay. So put together a really polished dummy, number one. Number two, research who you're going to send your dummy to. Number three, write a good letter. Number four has something to do with once you submit it. I would say once you submit it, almost forget that you did and move on. Continue working, maybe make another dummy, maybe submit it to other folks. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's the theme of number four. I don't know exactly what number four is, but thematically it's you sent it, pat yourself on the back. Don't just sit there and twiddle your thumbs and refresh your inbox every 5 minutes.
Yeah, if you're just sitting there at your computer waiting for a response, you're going to go a bit
insane.
Insane, yeah.
Yeah.
That's not doing anyone good, especially you as a creator.
Is that an important enough four, though? I mean, isn't that common sense? Like, won't people realize, like, yeah, sure, I know.
I don't know that everyone does.
Okay.
I'm
with you on that.
I think there's a lot of people who want to chase that and want to wait and get hung up on one specific project and on the no's that they get in response to that, or the, hypothetical hopeful yes that they're going to get. And this is it's a difficult enough, career and job that you have to love the process of it. You have to love creation. You have to love just getting back literally to the drawing board and, keeping on working on your craft.
Number four is you sent it, good for you, move on.
Yeah. And, if you are getting no's back from a project.
Let's fold rejection into this one. Okay.
If you're getting rejections back, then I think two things with that. You realize that rejection is part of the process, and that your project is not going to be for everyone, and it shouldn't be for everyone. You don't want it to be for everyone. I think rejections can actually be really helpful data. And yeah, the other side of that is if you're getting rejection after rejection after rejection, especially if you're getting any feedback, then you should be using that to look at the project. And, the feedback is not always going to be immensely helpful because, often we're so limited as editors with the time that we have. I wish that I could give so much more feedback on projects. I wish I had an infinite number of hours in the day, but I do not. And so often, even if I do give feedback, it's almost a kind of shorthand. So I can't sit down and give you the 30 points that you should use to improve your project. But if I like it enough, I may try and point in a direction or two and say, this is something that's not working for me, or this, this or that, or I think it could be better if this.
Right.
And so kind of, gathering those whatever grains of feedback you get and using them to look at the project again and ask yourself carefully, does that feedback resonate? Do I think it is worth considering? And how might I think about recasting this?
Yeah. Ultimately, I tell illustrators, you're the one who has to live with it. And if you don't agree with a note, okay, then don't do it. it's not every comment is going to improve your dummy by 1%. Some comments might, and you just don't feel like it's right for you creatively, then don't. I mean, you get to decide.
And some people just won't get the project, like they'll be like, well, I think it should be this. And it's like, oh, no, you didn't get the vision for it. And sometimes that's not right. Like a creator can be so kind of set into their own vision for the project that it's like, oh, you no one else gets it.
Yep.
But if really no one else gets it, then you might need to look at how it's actually like communicating what it's trying to communicate, is your intention actually coming through in the project?
Yeah. I spoke with somebody earlier today who sent her dummy to, I guess they're sort of a literary agent / consultant type of person. They came back with comments that just did not at all get the gist of the book. And the person said exactly what you just said. They were like, they didn't see my vision. And she was right. That person did not see the vision. Her comments essentially questioned everything about like the gist of the book. The gist of the book is more of a quieter tribute type of book than anything that's once upon a time this happened and that happened. But some people look, I think the one of the things that I always found to be difficult as a portfolio reviewer, the similarity being that you don't know this thing exists, and then all of a sudden it's in your face and you have to share your thoughts on it in a very limited amount of time. Mm-hmm. Is you're coming at it fully cold and you have to think and speak almost simultaneously. And sometimes some of the things you say won't be as eloquently put as you hoped. It's difficult to say exactly what you're trying to say. It sounds as if that's the same when you're reviewing texts. Like you don't have all the time in the world to sit with it and think about what to say. You read it, you react to it, and possibly write back. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if I have a question.
No, that's absolutely true. And I feel that so profoundly when I do like critiques for like a CBWI events or something like that, especially, like when you don't have a cover letter, you just have the text. And it's an interesting kind of exercise because you do have to let the text just speak for itself, or for you, just let the illustration speak for itself. There are times when the intention just does not come through, or, I'm not the right person to understand the intention, but, whatever mix of the above it is. And that's where like a cover letter can kind of be helpful for bridging that gap and letting the creator say, this is my intention for the project. And then I can, use that as an editor to kind of pair things up and be like, oh, they were trying to do this. Did they actually succeed in doing this? And I think of that more kind of, especially when I'm getting like, if we've said yes to a project and I'm getting into editing, I always want to have a conversation with the author and say, what do you want this book to do? Because then I, as an editor, will try and help you do that as effectively as possible. And ideally, like the project should stand on its own. It shouldn't, need you on the sidelines there communicating that intention. But my work as an editor is kind of to make sure that gap is as closed up as possible, right? That the intention of the creator, the intention of the project is communicated as clearly and directly to the reader as possible.
I think you just identified number 5. I think number 5 is be prepared for it to work. Be ready if the editor comes back to you and says, this is great, let's work together. Because that happens too. And I've talked to illustrators who have had books acquired, and then we talk and then they're really nervous. Like, okay, now what do I do? Well, you work with a publisher. That's what you do. So I think number 5 is don't just sign the first thing you get. Like read the contract. If it works, then read the contract. Take your time with it. Ask questions. I mean, it's going to be really exciting and you might want to like rush things along, but look at the schedule. Think about the schedule. can you make those dates? Like be very intentional with everything that they're throwing at you. Be very, what's the word I'm looking for? Not considerate. Careful. That's not the right word either.
Deliberate, intentional. Yeah.
Deliberate. Yeah. Thank you, editor. Don't just go, yeah, I'll do it. Fine. Because this is just through experiences. I've talked to illustrators who are like, yeah, I signed the contract. And then I really looked at the schedule and I don't know if I have enough time. What do I say? Like, you need to talk to them right away. Trust me. Have you ever said, oh God, this is going to backfire on me, isn't it? Well, I'll ask it anyway. Have you ever offered to acquire a book and said, here's the schedule? They then responded and said, oh my gosh, this is super exciting. Unfortunately, that schedule isn't going to work for me for whatever reason. Then you responded with, then never mind.
No, I'm grateful when creators tell me that, because you know what? It's going to that's going to be what happens anyway. If they try and agree to a schedule that they can't realistically do, it's just going to come in late or come in rushed and, not be the quality that any of us want. Right. So it's much better to communicate that up front.
Okay. So there you go. There's 5. Be ready for when it works.
Yeah. And I think, it's a balance of like, if you're wanting to get your career off the ground, you do want to take the opportunities that come your way. There's a certain need for that. And I think, you have to balance that against, like, is this the right opportunity? Is it feasible? Is it a good fit? They're both important.
Yeah. Is that it? I feel like that's good. 5?
It kind of took us through the whole process. So
yeah, that's pretty much it. From an illustration standpoint, sorry, writers, are you also looking for illustration, or are you leaving that to the art department?
Our art director is the primary driver of that, and she does a fabulous job, but I definitely always have an eye on that too. I will suggest illustrators if I think there's a good fit, and I weigh in on, every conversation about deciding an illustrator for projects.
Gotcha. Holly Hoover is your art director.
Yep.
Podcast guest. Is it like meetings, sitting in offices, looking at websites, looking at postcards, all of the above? Like what's that process like generally?
Yeah, we all, we're a small team. It's us, our assistant editor, and then our publisher. Generally, the 4 of us are deciding.
That sounds nice.
It's lovely. And
we had a 35-person team at Penguin.
And we all, I think, we have some different tastes, but by and large, we are all kind of, very compatible in terms of what we all like. So, usually it will be Holly who's bringing suggestions. Mm-hmm. I love that stage of getting to imagine what a project could look like, getting to kind of like hold it up against different possible art options and yeah, like I said, imagine the possibilities.
Yeah. I always tell illustrators or remind illustrators in that process, you guys are talking about not just one illustrator. You're not debating like, should we or shouldn't we hire one illustrator at a time? You have like 2 or 3 or 4 really good options for any one book. Mm-hmm. And that's where the discussion comes in, or at least that's what it was like for us. Mm-hmm. We never just said, here's the illustrator. What do you think? We said, here are 4 or 5 illustrators who are all great choices. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
And none of that, by the way, none of the points that people were making defending their choice, like, oh, I think it should be this one because had anything to do with school, location, material, none of that. It was just, here's why I like this art that we're looking at right now. What comes into play when you guys are discussing or deciding or choosing an illustrator?
It's so individual by project. I mean, we're always,
totally.
looking for different things, like different specific things for each project. And, maybe it's like, okay, for a nonfiction project, we want someone who can do, who still has their own distinct style, but can do things that are a little bit more realistic. So, like it's actually conveying the information that it needs to. But yeah, we're looking for illustrators that can match kind of the tone, the content, and character.
Yeah. I that is what am I trying to say? Can't even speak anymore. Reason number one why anyone passed on an illustrator was something about the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not have been like, oh, they don't know how to draw hands. It was more like, oh, I'm not sure, like these characters feel a little stiff, or they're not really emoting all that well, and it's unfair in a way, because what we're looking at is a sample size, and any one of these illustrators, whatever they needed to do, whatever the editor or art director wants them to do, they'll probably be able to do. But you can't go on a guess. You have to be able to see it, which is why illustrators should show as much range with emotion and with character design, with all these things as possible, because you can't guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so important in an illustrator's portfolio to be able to, show that you can do good scenery, show that you can do good character, show that, you can capture a setting, but you can also capture characters across a number of different scenes and keep them consistent, and be able to, I don't know, incorporate small details, like do animals. And, these are all things that I think, an artist working on their craft, should be curious and hopefully, everyone's got their things that they like doing, but practicing all those kind of different elements, I think are, it's a useful challenge.
Yeah.
And it really does help us be able to look at a portfolio and say, oh yeah, we feel confident that they can do X, Y, or Z component of this project.
So for illustrators and writers out there listening, what would be, in addition to everything you've already shared, which is a lot, what would be one sort of parting word, piece of insight, word of wisdom, something that you'd like to share with them directly?
Chase what really makes you curious and excited. Follow the things that really spark your passion and your joy. It's easy to kind of get caught up in like, oh, what does the market need? Or, how do I adapt my work to X, Y, or Z? And it's useful to keep, a half eye on that kind of thing, and to make sure that, you can speak to why and how your work will be relevant and needed. But I think chasing what really brings you joy and what makes you curious, chances are it'll do the same for others too. And I think if you're doing the project, doing the work that really excites you, it will find a home.
To learn more about Kathleen and Eerdmans, visit Eerdmans.com. If you find value in this podcast, consider becoming a patron. In return, you can access bonus episodes, receive invitations to our Art Directors After Hours series, and get a 10% off discount code for all ID offerings. Become a patron by visiting patreon.com/illustrationdept. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.